A world that we are living right now is dictated by overconsumption behavior and greedy capitalist corporations. We could see an individual reckless behavior to the environment, like overconsumption of plastic products. People goes to fancy coffee shop like Starbucks or Excelso, which still use a plastic cups, or people do keep consuming like fashion industry to keeping consuming fashion products, for example, like clothes, for example, and over consuming all of that, or people keep rejecting to use reusable bags and recycle their plastic because this is easier, buying many fashion products because of FOMO and etc. They are lazy to do tedious work to recycle and whatsoever, right? Many companies also rejects to recycle their plastic package due to production costs and time consumption that it would take to recycle, for example. In the status quo, movements like environmentalist and progressive governments already put so much effort in making people understand the environment issues. Massive campaign on media, for example, structurized education about reuse, reduce, recycle, literally since the elementary schools. NGO environmentalist campaigns like parade, seminars, and etc. Governments are the entity that have the social responsibility to save their citizen. This is the entity who people trust, who people choose, and we only hope for the individual that is greatly harmed by the environment issues. We are saying that this government must act and effectively react to these issues, right? Moving to the problem identifications, right? There are two problems that we identify. Firstly, the incentive to recycle is very low at the current moment. Meanwhile, the world is dying. They keep being ignorant. The harmful substances don't stop polluting water, soil, and our air. The victim is low socioeconomic individuals, people in developing countries, and a lot more. I think this is unfair for government who keeps repairing the damage by providing budgets, and not fair for individuals who already have awareness by putting huge efforts not to do, for example, recycle, but yet they still got the harm of environment at the end of the day, right? We think the only solutions is that criminalizations, the solutions that can deter the ones who are for far too long to neglect and being apathetic to these issues. We want to reduce the continuations of destructions and of nature that harms our environment and our society. To make things clear, couples of things that need to be defined. I think firstly, the form of punishment will be financial punishment by giving proportional sanctions, like less people or organizations or corporations do recycle, then the more they will get amount of financial sanctions. Governments also will socialize the regulations and establish an independent institutions. The investigator will investigate the case in society, organization, and company, for example. So we will make sure the accuracy of recycled percentage of the and calculations of how many financial section would be justified for this kind of person. We think the same way forest burner in Kalimantan are being charged is the same way we're going to do that in government side of the house. Thirdly, government will also possibly reallocate the money, like for example, from financial sanctions to environmental project and preservations, like reforestation project and compensation to indigenous communities and middle lower class who is the victim of climate change. I think I think the disclaimer proportions would not only impose the financial sanctions only, but as a last resort, we will also do criminalizations if they do reoffend on whatsoever, but also keep doing socialization and awareness in all layers of stakeholders at the end of the day. 2 points of arguments then. First argument, why then is justified to be classified as criminal activity? Layer 1, we talk about why then is urgent to do this, right? Environmental issue is the most crucial aspect in a human life. It significantly influences to other sectors like economic, for example, and education, and educations. Economics will collapse as there are so many natural disasters when companies cannot be more productive and government keep giving compensations to this type of people, for example. Education and basic life will also be harmed, like climate change, like literally victims are dying, people die, and ecosystem are getting ruined. All these damages happens due to high amount of plastic waste. When people do not do recycle, plastic waste are being dumped on oceans, and some people and corporates even burning plastic waste. The impact of burning plastic waste will significantly produce CO2 that will significantly destroy the ozone layers and causing higher temperature of water and harm society health due to UV light, for example, that harm cancer, that make people cancer, have skin cancer, that cause people to death at the end of the day. I think this happens because the world is interconnected, and actions that we do in other parts of the world impact our action. The outcome is on the persons with other parts of the world. The second parameter, second layer is the parameter of criminal identity, right? Firstly is ill intention, and secondly is clear damage that happened, right? Let's see how this fulfill those parameter. I think the world right now is very interconnected. Like forest bird is Kalimantan literally harms people in Singapore, for example, and when we pollute the water, the ones going to be suffer is the ones who are you consume these natural resources at the end of the day. Therefore, blaming this individual is something that is justified, and this is and by them not doing recycle, they do harms to other people at the end of the day, right? Not to mention, like for example, this also influence people. For example, if they continuously do that, like it's going to become the norm. For example, it's fine for you to be lazy and not recycling your trash and whatsoever. In conclusion, this is super harmful and should be stopped for good, right? Let's also recognize their intention. For example, why they not do recycle. Most likely, right, they are having ego, for example, for people, this kind of people, not just, for example, this kind of actions, because they have ego. They want to, for example, keep damaging the environment, because most likely they want to follow the trend and whatsoever. Government already put massive socialization and campaign, yet they do not listen to the government. They have capacity to prevent the reckless behavior, but they not do obey. This is the same with government massive socialization on health protocol and vaccination. When people keep rejecting this important caution and awareness, they get government short of punishment by not being able to access public transportation and other public facilities. I think secondly, it's also fulfill the clear damage. The reckless behavior give tangible damages. Victims die. People get financial damage, like fishermen who is not able to fish due to high sea level. This is fulfill the criminal liability principle. In conclusion, this is principally justified to criminalize those who are ignorant. Now moving on to my second argument then. Why our mechanism will result to better behavior, environmental preservations at the end of the day, right? I think firstly, it is going to be giving a deterrent effect, right? They don't want to pay much of financial sanctions. Let's look at three level. Firstly, individual level. They need money to survive. Moreover, this is a pandemic, for example. Money does matter for survivabilities of these individuals, right? B, I think that for an organization's level, for example, they want to be a good example. Sometimes environmentalists do not do recycle that much. This will make their reputation worse if, for example, they do not do recycle. Lastly, there are capitalist corporations, for example. I think capitalist corporations are characterized by their profit-oriented goal, right? I think by this kind of punishment, they will get less profit due to these financial sanctions. They will much more likely obedience to this kind of uh, regulations at the end of the day. Secondly, is the money utility, right? I think I think the money is going to be utilized into many things. For example, it's going to fairly compensate the victim. So even if oppositions will argue, if they pay, they will not recycle, at least government get the money to compensate the victim. There is free skin cancer therapy and compensations of death towards these indigenous minority that is being harmed by these environmental problems. I think money also providing more in environmental preservation program projects, for example, like what I already mechanized in my mechanisms, like green technologies and whatsoever. So I think this is going to solve many problems of environment that we face today. We are so proud to propose.